Welcome in. It's the Second Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your mega preview pod for this week's FedEx St. Jude Championship. It's storylines, it's wagers, and it's probably a little bit of nonsense along the way. Joining me to break it all down, Mark Immelman is here. Hello, Mark.
How's it, Rick? So, here's a turn up. I'm home. You're on the road. What's going on? Is this is the world off its tilt? We need to get the world back on its axis.
The world is off its axis. Mark is at home, and I'm at the golf tournament. Yes, I just landed in Memphis moments ago. First thing I did was run to the hotel and do this podcast. So yeah, I'll be here all week.
Is it hot as Hades? Because that tournament can cook.
It's warm, yeah. 95 and humid and all that fun stuff along the way, yeah.
Ooh, I'm going to be watching TV in the comfort of my air conditioning in my house.
It's the sweat diet. I'll lose 10 pounds via sweating this week. Greg DuCharme is here. Gregor's good to see you.
Well, if we go off the rails, it's going to be you two. It's not going to be me today. I'm all business, very serious, because it's playoff time, and I can't wait to break it all down.
It is playoff time. This is the first of 3 legs. Used to be 4 legs. First of 3 legs. We've got 70 eligible, 69 here in Memphis, and the top 50 will advance. And of course, top 30 will go to East Lake. So it does, Greg, you teed it up perfectly. Forget what you did in the regular season. Kind of feels like we're not technically starting fresh, but it kind of feels like a change in, I don't know, ideology, a change in, it's a feeling change.
You know, it's interesting. A couple of years ago, I was talking to some of the guys that worked in the Titleist Tour van. And because I was at what was then the Northern Trust at Liberty National. And I was kind of surprised. They were like, once you get to the playoffs, guys start to relax. You know, they don't necessarily need quite as much. They're really happy to be here. They're hoping for a very good week. It's not to say that they don't care anymore, but there's a little bit of an exhale because they've made it this far. Now, that was before the top 50 made it into signature events for the following season. So I'm very curious if that addition, you know, top 50 is so meaningful in your playing schedule the following year and for the fall, quite frankly. You know, is that going to play an impact on the way guys are feeling heading into this week? Just about everybody has a real good, well, everybody technically has a chance to get into the top 50, but everybody can do it, and they don't necessarily even have to win to get that done.
That's an interesting conversation, Mark. The idea that there's been this multiple month or week grind to get here. Is there some exhaling that's happening this week?
There wasn't much exhaling last week, although I must tell you a funny story. Final day, Sunday, we're off to the range to do some recon before the show. And I'm walking down the hill to the range, and I bump into Eric Van Rooyen, who at that stage was projecting 70th. I had come into the Wyndham in the 60s, and he had been told that there was almost a 98% chance he was going through. But all of a sudden, he's the bubble boy, and then dropped to 71 and was out for a whisker or two. And I'm like, whew. Anyhow, he had withdrawn because of a tender back. And in the end, at the end of all of it, all the shenanigans on Sunday, he gets in. Okay. And so I text him. I'm like, well, all the prayers worked. And he sort of sent his heart as if to say, okay, now it's time to go and play. And so I guess to that, yeah, there's this thing where you've gotten in the field and now it's a clean slate, if you will. Now, yes, you want to get to 50, but there is some freewheeling because the guys that are at 69, 68, you know they're not going to have like a middling finish and get into 50. So you're going to find some guys not playing uber aggressive, because I feel like at times, given weather, par is a decent score around Southwind. But you see there's a little free swinging from certain folks. Then people that are sort of around the 50 number, they may be a little more defensive and they're trying not to shoot themselves in the foot. So all of the ones I've been to in Memphis, it's this weird dichotomy with like, okay, I'm taking a breath. But then as Greg well points out, 50 is a big deal with signature events and stuff. So there's some pressure there. So the first couple of rounds are always fun to watch as you see guys sort of some feeling their way and some just letting it fly.
Yeah, poking and prodding their way around the event, because there are, it's interesting, Greg. Most weeks, I think most guys would, whether they believe it or not, would tell you, I'm here to win. I'm here to win. You have some, and not that that's different this week, but it is definitely a different mindset for, let me find an example here. Davis Riley, 65th in the FedEx Cup standings. His season is over unless he goes out and plays well and shoots something low. But then you've got Ryan Gerard, 31st. Pretty safe either way, right? I mean, he's going to be in next week. Obviously, he wants to pad his point total to try to get into East Lake. There is definitely going to be, I think, some strategy changes for this week.
Yes. Now, technically, Sam Burns and beyond are mathematically clinched. Everybody who's number 24, everybody better than 24th is mathematically clinched. I think that looking at this board, somewhere between 1,100 will definitely get in points, that is, and 10-26. Tom Hoagie may be safe. He'll get at least 12.8 points for 69th place. He's probably good. And then if you're 41st, like Matt Fitzpatrick, you figure you got to go play a nice round of golf. And then you go all the way down to 70th, and some of those guys are going to have to finish in the top 5. I would imagine Matty Schmid's at 620. So, he's probably going to need a top 5 finish, I would say, to advance. So it's going to be pretty intense if he gets close to that mark. Now, at what point? There are different points in the tournament where, hey, on Thursday I got a great chance at finishing in the top 5. Friday morning I may have no chance. It could happen quickly. So the pressure will also change based on the way that round 1 goes, where you are in relation to the leaderboard and what you need. And then it's also important to note that this is a $20 million purse, 70 players playing. So if you're someone like Scotty Scheffler, you get a 5th win on the season. It's a pretty big deal. You start to get into some pretty fun conversations from a historical standpoint. You got Ryder Cup to play for, which there are a number of players in this field that need to play really well to secure a spot on the Ryder Cup team. So there are a lot of different storylines kind of mingled into this week, which I think is cool.
If Scotty keeps going like he is, Greg, he's going to be the all-time PGA Tour money winner in about, 5 months? It's ridiculous what this guy's doing. And quickly, I was looking at a document on the PGA Tour. Matt Schmidt, how about that finish last week, birding the last 3 holes to make it in at number 70? That was clutch. Anyhow, he's got to finish in a 2-way tie for 12th or better to advance to the 50. Now, that's algorithmic, obviously. The thing that's subject to change. But, yeah, if he gets inside the top 10, then he should be okay.
If you want an example of how much the purses have gone nuts in the last couple of years, Scotty Scheffler is 3rd on the all-time money list on the PGA Tour.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
3rd. But he's
in like really 3 years of work.
Yeah, he turned pro 2020 or
yeah.
No, he was on the Corn Ferry, but his PGA Tour status was like 2020. So 6 years, there's 5 or 6 years, he's the 3rd. He's right behind Tiger and Rory, ahead of Jim Furyk and Vijay Singh, who those guys had massively long careers.
Yes, it's fantastic, and it doesn't even include bonus money.
And he's still
still
eating at Chipotle. Who knew?
Yeah.
What do you have that list in front of you, Rick? What's Furyk at? Is he at like 70 million in that neighborhood?
71 million. Yeah.
Yeah. If you include bonus money, Scotty made $72 million last year.
That's insane.
Right. That's Jim Furyk's total career. Jim Furyk's not that long ago. Like he won a major in 2003. He was right there in 2012 in the U.S. Open to win.
Well, I'm sure you guys remember the document that went out when they released like the new structure of payouts, and they used Jim Furyk as an example and basically said if you had Jim Furyk's career starting right now, you'd make about $600 million. Well, Jim Furyk made $71 million. He's probably looking around saying, wait a minute, you're gonna take my career and you're gonna 10x that in terms of earnings? That's incredible.
Which makes you wonder, because these boys that went and got the guarantee at Live. Now, look, nothing is a guarantee. We know this. Injury, that sort of stuff happens. But gosh, for any of the leading players right now, they just got to play average. And they don't even need the one more major like Jim had. These guys, and you're not counting, that's just money earned on tour. That's not stuff you're getting from your sponsors. Oh, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, good time to be like a top 15 player in the world. Very good time to do that. Not so bad if you're like top 50 either.
Scotty Scheffler chose a great time to be born. After Tiger, be really good and make a obscene amount of money.
It's true. I'm glad we mentioned the subplots here because there are a ton of these subplots. And actually, Ryan from the Patreon submitted a question very much like this. He just says, it's very simple. What one storyline are you most excited to watch unfold this week at the St. Jude? And Mark, I'll start with you because you've got young guys trying to make it far in the playoffs. You've got old guys trying to hang on. Top 50 is huge. You've got Ryder Cup implications on both sides. There's a lot of subplots here. Can you narrow it down to one?
Yeah, the Ryder Cup thing is cool. With the specter of all that leading over there, and me and my on-course boys, we had our season-ending dinner on Sunday night, and we did a thing where there might have been, $20 in it, but we laid down who we thought the Ryder Cup teams would be, and the closest to the selections was going to win the money, naturally. But to me, I really, and you may see it in my betting card, I've just got this strange feeling about Ricky Fowler. The guy's game is percolating, and he looks so close. And when I watch him hit it, it's there, and I can see the confidence, and he's changed putters, and he's making more putts. And so I know I'm picking out one guy here, but I think he's currently like 64th or something on the list. And, he can go out there and play really well, get himself in the 50. I expect him to play a little better, to be really honest with you, and get back to the Tour Championship. So I'm watching Ricky, and I'm looking for Ricky to do Ricky stuff and make it through BMW to the 30, even though he's out right now.
Wow, Ricky doing Ricky stuff. All right, Greg, is there one subplot, one storyline that stands out most to you?
It is the Ryder Cup. And it's not just because it's the Ryder Cup. This always gets so much attention, but it's this specific list and how seemingly wide open it is. I don't remember a time where there were this many guys playing for two spots. I mean, you got to think that I consider Keegan Bradley at 10th to be safe. He may think otherwise, but I think he's in. So that it's McNeely, Harman, Novak, Cantlay, Young, Burns, Wyndham Clark, Lucas Glover, Daniel Berger, Chris Gotterup, and I would even add Jordan Spieth at 27th into that mix.
Ish.
Right. So that is an extreme. That's what, 10 guys for two spots. That it could, in theory, come down to what happens over these next 2 weeks. I've never seen anything like that before. The guys that are a little farther down the list have played really well recently, like Gotterup and Young, and add in something special in the playoffs to their previous wins would go a long way. Jordan Spieth and Patrick Cantlay, and you could argue Sam Burns and Wyndham Clark are guys you'd really like. You're looking for a reason to put them on the team because they have some pedigree, and they haven't given you that yet, but they could in these 2 weeks. I think that's fascinating. Then you have McNeely and Harman, and let's throw Novak in there too. Those guys are right there on the points list that need to show something late, and they could really kind of solidify a spot with a couple really good weeks. So it's the biggest storyline for me this year.
Greg, given that you sold me a bill of goods with the Sam Burns thing a few weeks ago, explain to me how you are convincing us that Jordan Spieth is on the short list for a pick.
Well,
Given what
it's
he
not
said
the
last
short
week.
list; it's a long list, Rick.
Okay. Well, given what he said last week, he goes, "Look, I'm going to have to do something, but I wouldn't pick me right now." So I'm keen to hear how you convinced me out of this one.
Well, I think his game has been really solid, a lot more solid than it seems. And I was looking at this earlier today. Statistically, in all 4 major statistical categories, he's between 26th and 60th. So he's very good, but hasn't excelled in anything.
There's 12 guys on a team.
There's 12 guys on a team. He is inside the top 12 if you look at it from a strokes gained total in 2025 season. I wouldn't choose a team based on that, but it does lend a little credit to the general ability and the performance that these guys have shown throughout this year. So it's a metric that I look at, and it has him a lot closer than 27th. Now, that being said, there's a lot of work. I think it would take a run to Eastlake for sure, and a win in this or the BMW in order for him to get selected. You're probably talking about a win and a T3 kind of a thing. And you also, I heard Davis Love say something really interesting on Sirius XM. He said, we know how these guys play. We know how they're playing. We know how good they are. But we're looking for guys who we can pair with. Who are they going to play with? And I've always thought pairings were important. But if that's the sole thing that you're looking at, well, you got Justin Thomas there, who's going to make the team, and pairing him with Jordan Spieth, that those two together, their game will rise as a team compared to individually. And I think that gives Jordan another little bump. So I would not put him on my team if it ended right now, but I think Keegan Bradley's looking for a reason to put him. I think he'd love to pick Jordan, but he's got to earn it. He's got to prove it.
I can go with the Justin Thomas thing. I would pick Brian Harman over him every day of the week. Just saying.
Speaking of Keegan Bradley, we are staring down a crisis right now, because if Keegan Bradley finishes 10th through 12th in these standings, now we're going to have a problem, because it was one thing, and for Keegan to, if he automatically qualified, obviously he's going to play whatever. If he's 7th or 8th and playing great golf, nobody's going to be upset if he picks himself. We have now reached a time where, coming off a missed cut, Chris Gotterup has injected his name. Cameron Young has injected his name. The back end of the team is getting very sticky. And if Keegan picks himself over a Chris Gotterup, a Brian Harman, a Cam Young, a Jordan Spieth, insert any name here, and Keegan goes 0-3 or 1-2 or whatever it ends up being, he gets away with it if the U.S. team wins, but this could really open up a lot of sticky situations.
It's a terrible situation for him to be in.
Exactly. Which is why I like him being captain, but he should, I don't think you can have a guy who's in the prime of his career be the captain.
Well, okay. Well, this happened because Tiger Woods was going to get the job, and then Tiger's like, no thanks, and so they throw Keegan a bone because of the debacle 2 years ago. So the PGA have pickled themselves, as far as I'm concerned, and still, the way I look at this is Keegan is one of the top players on this team. It's going to take a lot of convincing, even if he has a bad outing. And I think if you had to poll the golfing public, chime in the comments, please, fans. Keegan, I think each and every one of the fans here would go, yeah, we'll have Keegan. Thank you very much, even if he loses a match or two.
I'm on that side.
Okay,
I'm on that side that either way, I actually think it would be, I think you'd get the most out of Keegan as a playing captain. He deserves to be on the team, all that stuff, but it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop the talking heads, Greg. It's not going to stop the talking heads.
Losing this for Keegan is, no matter what he does, it's going to be bad. So he just has to win. And that means that when he makes this decision, he has to pick the team that's going to win.
Correct.
Right? Which is a lot easier said than done. But, I ran some, I just made up some formulas to try to because this is so crazy. It's like, all right, how can we how would you rank these guys? And I ranked like 21 guys, the top 20 on the list, and Jordan. I just threw Jordan in there because of what I said earlier. And Keegan, no matter how I did it, like I did like a couple different variations, and no matter how I did it, Keegan was somewhere between 5 and 8 in the rankings. And and you look at his, so am I crazy? Because, you know, you could make up a formula that spits out whatever you want. Am I crazy? Well, he's a top 10 player in the world, official world golf rankings. Say what you will about those. He's top 10 in strokes gained total. Say what you will about that. He's top 10 on the FedEx Cup list. Say what you will about that. It's like every metric that I look at has him somewhere 5 to 8, maybe 10. It's like that guy can't be left off a team. A captain can't leave that guy off of a team.
Greg, you know what metric I go with on this? Not this one. This one. Did you see that boy? Well, you put red, white, and blue on him. He turns into Superman.
Yeah.
And did you see him at the Travelers?
Yep.
What he did to one of Europe's top guns, he outstared him. Keegan gets that look in those icy blue eyes. That guy is all up for it. You can't measure what Keegan Bradley has, but when you watch him under pressure, dressed in red, white, and blue, the last time he was on a Ryder Cup team, I was there in Chicago. I think that was the last time, when he was on the freaking green with a flag, waving it around here like this after Phil Mickelson hits a putt. That guy, look, he has got to play, in my opinion, and they're going to figure out the captaincy thing around that.
If you're not watching on YouTube, you should be, because Mark cupped his hands as if to signify
universal signal
for big cojones. Yes, on one Keegan Bradley. Okay, we've got Ryder Cup things that will partially probably be decided or at least impacted this week. New golf course, or at least some renovations. Do we know anything about the renovations? I'm getting a little bit of nodding from Greg. So every green has been touched. I know they expanded some of the green complexes back. They've crept in over the past couple of years. What do we know, Greg? How is this going to be different?
They did rebuild and resurface every green. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was some like reimagination of all the greens, but they did recoup some old square footage. They're now 4,500 square feet on average, which is about 200 square feet larger than they were. They're still the third smallest greens on tour. Mm-hmm. So still very small, but they just added a couple more hole locations. They put Xeon Zoysia in the green surrounds as well, which the idea was to make it a little firmer and faster around the greens. But they've had they had a hard time with this renovation because it rained so much. I read something like they've had 53 inches of rain this year. And last year in total, now remember it's August, so talking calendar years here. Last year it rained 56 inches in total.
Right, we still have 4 months to go, and they're at the yearly rainfall total from last year. Yeah,
so it's been a rather wet. Now that's a fascinating thing because new greens are always firmer.
Yes,
right. They skip, but if it's wet and if everything else is wet, how are the approaches going to play? Because sometimes, like when I was in college, they redid the greens one summer, and we came back to brand new greens. Now it was in a very low flat area that was always wet, and if you landed it an inch short of the green, it would plug, and if you landed it an inch onto the green, gone over the back. It was the hardest golf course I've ever played, just for that reason, because you couldn't get a ball on the green. So I don't think it'll be like that because they redid the green surrounds as well. But I'm curious to see if they are skippy or if they are a little more receptive because of all the rain.
I want to add to that because Greg put out a really cool thing on X that I read through there. And Greg, you talked about the value of being a good iron player around this place. Because even though the greens have been expanded by, but the greens are still tiny. And a lot of them sort of fall off on either sides. And what made it really hard scoring-wise was with the firmness of the greens, and then you're coming from Bermuda rough, it was impossible at times if the course was firm. That maybe mitigated some. But the thing about this course always was chipping and pitching around the greens off Bermuda grass. If you got into the grain lie, it was hair raising, because you got to be like you got to have super touch around there, but you got to have speed enough to keep the club going through and into the grain lie. Then you get the ball on there with less spin onto a firm green, and you're putting from 10, 12 feet in the blink of an eye. So I feel like with the change of the grass around the greens, that'll make life easier. But with greens firm, I don't care how much rain they've got, because the greens haven't settled just yet. Those things are going to play firm. So in other words, as far as I'm concerned, with all the rain they've had, if you drive it in the rough this week, you're going to have yourself a handful. So if you start keeping the ball in play off the tee and playing from the fairways, which in my opinion has always sort of been the examination around you, if you drive it well, then you're going to have a chance. I feel like you got the leg up. But I'm keen to see how the greens play, because firm greens are ordinarily, and the Bermuda rough is this place's defense.
Okay, so I'll let's do it like this. So I'm getting some ideas here, but Greg, I'll throw it back to you. I'll be out there tomorrow. What should I look for tomorrow that might help determine what we will see Thursday through Sunday? What should I look for?
Yeah, I would be looking at what wedges do when they land. Right. If you see somebody hitting a wedge shot into the green, how big is the first skip, and does it spin back? Sometimes the other thing they can do sometimes is make them they can put a lot of sand on them when they're new. I don't know if they've done that there, but that is a practice. You do a little extra top dressing on new greens, and sometimes it's your shot. The ball is spinning in the air, but when it lands, it skips. It doesn't quite spin back quite as much. So how's the ball reacting when it lands on the green? And if you're seeing big skips with wedges, then look out. And if you're seeing shots from and then the other thing is, what happens when a ball lands short of the green? Will it react appropriately? Because if you can play it, this doesn't work on every hole, but if you can play it short of the green, and it will bounce up, then you have at least an avenue from the rough. But a lot of these greens have water in front, and you can't do that anyway. So yeah, it's really, how does it respond when it lands on the green?
I'm getting the sense, Mark, that this might be a little tough out there.
It always is. You know, as far as I'm concerned, you come to Southwind, which is north of 7,000 yards. It's a par 70. And it's a lot of golf course, even with the greens expanded in size. Like the years we've been there, you know that par is never far away. And the way the golf course flows too, and I know you're asking what to look for, but holes 1 and 2, you know, it's kind of like a layup off the tee and some sort of wedge. Then 3 is a par 5 with a narrow driving area. Then 4 is a tough par 3. 5 is a converted par 5 to a 4, dogleg to the right. 6 is a mean par 4, turns the opposite direction. 7 is straight away a narrow, long par 4. Then that's run of really hard holes. Then 8 and 9-ish are easier within reason. 10's hard. 11's an island green. 12's really hard par 4, water all the way down the right. 13's long up the hill. 14 is a mean par 3. And then it eases off with 15, 16, then 17, 18, you're hanging on for dear life. So it's a good golf course, and par is a good score around here. And I'm sort of with Greg. Watch how the balls react, and watch for, to what Greg says, if the ball hits and there's a slight little puff, because oftentimes when they top dress that stuff, you'll see in certain major championships, I won't say which ones, if the greens aren't up to speed, there's a very fine layer of sand that's put down, then you'll actually see it as it lands, because then the ball skids and runs out a whole lot more. If you see that, then I feel like this place will be a handful, especially if you're coming from the rough.
All right, I've got some notes, and I'll take a look tomorrow and see what we can find. New greens, new format, and a new situation with Rory McIlroy opting out of this event. Only 69 players. He is certainly safe for, God, he's probably safe for Eastlake at this point, but he's certainly safe for the BMW Championship, second in the FedEx Cup standings. This has, triggered the internet about why he should or should not be allowed to do this. But Greg, you and I talked about this a little bit on Sunday night. And Mina, if you could put up my proposal, that would be great. It is obviously bad for Memphis, the game, all that fun stuff, for the best players to not be at all the playoff events. So I pitched this idea, which you can check out on my X as well, that they should just get rid of FedEx Cup points right now. The top 50 from this event move on. The top 30 next week move on. And then we play the Tour Championship straight up. So, Greg, you and I pitched this to you first on Sunday night. Now that we've had time to think about this and digest Rory's absence this week, do you feel better, worse, or indifferent to my idea?
Much better. Okay. I mean, we talked about this idea when they first announced that they were going to be altering the format before they announced what it was. And
we knew if they went to an even start at the Tour Championship, guys were going to skip. We knew that.
So I did a little looking at what would have happened the last 2 years if they did this. It's pretty cool. Last year in this event, you would have had an 8-for-1 playoff.
Oh my God. Inject it.
For 50th.
Inject it.
Of the top 10 players in the FedEx Cup entering, Shane Lowry would have been in that playoff. Rory McIlroy would not have gotten in. But
did he play? I thought he took it off last year.
No, he finished tied 68th.
Oh, did he? Okay, right. Well, he took it off basically.
Yeah. Well, look, if he had to finish top 50 in order to get in, I imagine something would have changed within him. You know, there's some competitive firepower. I want to move on. Imagine watching Rory McIlroy on Sunday morning battle it out for T48, like as if it's the last event that he's ever going to play in. Like that, we don't get to see that very often in the game of golf. You get to see it on the cut line, I suppose. But as Mark likes to talk about, and as we witnessed with Kurt Kitayama and Joe Highsmith this year, making the cut is so big because you could still win, right? So you don't get to see this kind of thing. And I think it would be really beneficial. And it would, there is no reason I can think of to not do it other than you risk top guys falling out. And that's what I say, Rick. So I think a really important aspect of this is to reward the regular season at the end of the Wyndham. A big portion of the FedEx Cup bonus pool would be doled out 1 to 150 at the end of the Wyndham. And then there would be a playoff purse. I don't care what the numbers are.
Nobody does.
You reward the regular season at the end of the regular season. And since 2019, this has been the biggest problem with the playoffs. The need to also reward the regular season. And there's an easy way around that.
My response to, and I understand, listen, I get it. It is good for the game if it comes down to Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy on Sunday at East Lake. It's also good for the game if the Lakers play the Celtics every year in the finals. Guess what? Doesn't happen. That's sports. There's always next year. Play better, right? Hashtag play better. And when if you have enough stars, they're not all going to go home in Memphis. They're not all going to go home at the BMW Championship. They're going to get there. And if you get the 30 worst guys at East Lake, we'll try it again next year. Sorry, Mark, golf is the only sport where we try to rig this to make sure that those guys get to the finish line.
Yeah, look, I got to be honest with you. Obviously, I wasn't on Sunday nights. But when I saw Mina's very cool clip on Instagram of you two guys pitching this idea, I actually laughed. I laughed out loud at the two of you going, yeah, they go again. This is a typical internet where we like, what ifs, we're living in hypotheticals. But listening to what you both have to say, I'm like, yeah, I'm on board. Let's do this. Because, look, here's the thing. As long as you know what it is going in, then you're in control of your own fate. And if you have a bad week, that's how it rolls. I mean, I'm a big NFL guy. Playoffs, you just want to get in the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. And if you can get a bye, fantastic. If not, then you're on your way. I would make an addendum to this because, look, I don't know how many of the PGA Tour golfers, but I would say the top 25, money doesn't mean anything to them. Like Keegan said, I showed up with Wyndham because I was on number 10 for the Comcast top 10, and he was going to make, what, $2 million or something? I'm like, for the rest of them, it doesn't really amount to much. So I would say, just like the NFL then, award buys to the top 10 players. So instead of giving them money, say you have a buy pass the first playoff event. Now there's a beef with that because FedEx pay a lot of money to have the FedEx Cup, major sponsor of the PGA Tour.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to be awfully cool with the idea that the top 10 guys on the tour that season don't show up. But you can say to the guys, if you go and play, then we'll give you a bonus of, for your time, like an appearance fee. But, just creative ways to try and reward the regular season, because for a lot of these guys that finished inside the top 10, oh yeah, okay, cool, I made $5 more million. Big deal. That's the way I see it.
There's two things for me. I think first off, my proposal here is under the assumption, like they're not, a lot of the discourse around the playoffs is let's blow it up and start from scratch. It's not going to happen. They're not going to blow it up, and they're not going to go to a 32-man match play brackets.
And they shouldn't.
It's not going to happen. Okay. There are just too many moving pieces. We are too far away from that. This is very, very close to what we're doing right now, and does not change a lot of things. The other thing I want, and my pitch to FedEx is this. Yeah, you might have some years where Rory and Scotty go out in the first round. But if you can create a situation where in 20 years, the FedEx Cup is a bigger deal, fans care about it, that's the idea, right? Clearly, it's not working, right? We've adjusted the format a handful of times. We talk a lot about major championships. We have guys who say they peak 4 times a year, or they want to peak 4 times a year. If you can change it where everybody cares more about the FedEx Cup playoffs, that to me is more valuable than, yeah, it's going to stink when Rory goes out in the first round.
I will say this, talking to players, they care about the FedEx Cup playoffs. This is part of the vernacular. If you had said a few years ago, they're like, nah, I get it. But they talk about making the playoffs. I just want to throw this out there too. I would say you don't cut from 70 to 50, or you kind of cut from 70 to 60, and then, down to 30 or something like that. But because FedEx is such a big sponsor, and they sponsor the St. Jude Research Hospital for kids, the children's hospital, you're like, if you miss the cut and you don't make it, or if you miss advancing, you have to, from your own foundations, donate $2.5 million a pop. So that's $25 million going to children's cancer research. Everyone's happy. Yeah.
Okay. First off, I never a penalty a penalty for missing out, which goes to St. Jude, is the greatest idea I've ever heard of.
If we're living in hypotheticals, why not? Let's ratchet this whole thing up.
Yeah, these guys can. Yeah, cough up $1 million, and if you're a top 10 player and you miss it, $5 million. Like, let's go. Let's raise some money.
Get penalized for being good.
I love that. That's so good.
It's the way to go. It's simple. It is simple. It is easy.
Yes.
And it will be a fantastic viewing experience.
And last thing on this, because I could talk about this for a long time, but we still have there. Okay, so it was really good when the tour, when we had the tour championship, there was there was the tour championship winner, and then there was the FedEx Cup winner. Like, that was tough because you're constantly doing the calculations and all that stuff. We're still doing those calculations, right? Davis Thompson, when he makes a bogey late, we're waiting to see if that drops him to 71st or if he's still going to be 70th. It's still a confusing, opaque scenario. You're just waiting for the television to tell you who moves on to Memphis. And that's to Caves Jolly. That's going to happen this week. The television is going to tell us who gets into next week, as opposed to just looking at the leaderboard and saying, oh, here's the top 50, or in my dream, an 8-for-1 playoff. My God. To get into the spot. Like, it takes care of it on the golf course.
And there's nothing easier to follow.
Nothing.
If there's a T50 next to your name, you're in at least a playoff.
Yeah.
If there's something with a 4 in front of it,
you're in.
You're in. it's like very easy to follow as a viewer.
Hey, how about Davis Thompson last week? I was standing in the fairway, right, watching from down in the fairway. He makes that bomb from 60 feet or something, then 3 putts, 18. Golly, every shot makes someone happy and someone sad.
I've heard that. All right, let's talk about some wagers for this week. If you've never seen it before, we're going to release the grid. There's a matchup on there from each of us, a finishing position, and then 2 separate outrights. I love some of the places that we have gone for this week. So, Mina, when you have a moment, fire away the grid. Dun, dun, dun. There it is. The grid for this week. Greg, we're going to start with you. Your matchup, please.
I have Daniel Berger over Keegan Bradley at -115. Now, I don't like betting against Keegan because I think he's playing great golf. And like I said, he's a surefire lock on this Ryder Cup team if I'm the captain. But Daniel Berger, you need to take a look at some of his numbers because it may not be overwhelming when you look at his finishing positions, but he has been hitting the ball really well this year, all season, and it's continued. He's gained over 2 strokes in each of his last 4 events, just approaching the green, which is, I think, so important here. And when you look at his record here, it's also, he has 2 wins and he has 2 top 5s and 1 missed cut in 5 events. So we went win, missed cut, T2, T5. Keegan Bradley's best ever finish here is, I believe, a T25. So very different records around this place. Yeah, T25 for Keegan. And that was in his first ever, that was in 2011. First time he ever played here. So big difference in course history. I could even make the argument that Daniel Berger has been hitting the ball better than Keegan over the last month or so. So I like Daniel Berger. They're both at -115. I'm taking Berger in this one.
Berger over Bradley in a matchup for Greg. I went with a favorite, Matt Fitzpatrick over Colin Morikawa. I'll repeat that. Matt Fitzpatrick is the favorite over Colin Morikawa. How far things have changed in the course of the past couple of months. Matt Fitzpatrick coming off of 4 straight top 8 finishes. He had the second best score on the weekend last week. He's been gaining strokes in all 4 major categories. He's played well around TPC Southwind, and Colin Morikawa is just a big old question mark. I got no idea. He's got a new caddy on the bag again this week. I don't know if he's going to pick a fight with a media member. I don't know if he is. It might be me. I don't know if he is going to hit any.
Careful with your questions.
Wipey fades. I don't know what's going to happen. Big question mark. I'm going with Matt Fitzpatrick, who is feeling it right now, making a push to be on that European Ryder Cup team, which I think he's probably safe.
Hey, speaking of caddies, you see Jake Knapp has axed Mike.
No.
He's hiring Joe Griner, yeah.
The caddy carousel continues.
Yep.
Ever changing.
And Marco Bannock, who Tony Finau's longtime caddy, is on the bag for Colin.
Do we just hear about this more now, or because we got what was the original, the Homa Griner split was like that starts the cycle, right? Everybody starts going through. Have there been more of them this year, or we just heard about more of them?
I just think that, social media is so up on information and their podcasts about everything, and people are looking for content. And then, some of the caddies, I think kind of where the whole thing kind of went crazy was, Bones, when he came back from announcing to caddy for JT and then got let go for Rev, Mad Minister. And then, of course, Max is a bit of a darling, and Joe Griner with a beard, so he's recognizable. So a lot of the guys that are going through these caddy changes are sort of recognizable. But there's caddy changes at the bottom end of the FedEx Cup list all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, Mark, you've got an interesting one. You have a group wager. I have the group in front of me here. So this is Group D on DraftKings. Mark's 5 options were Hideki Matsuyama, Keegan Bradley, Robert McIntyre, Harris English, Chris Gotterup. Mark, tell us which one you went with.
Well, first off, I went with this because I couldn't find the head-to-head matchups.
Another week, another day of Mark not being able to find the head-to-head matchups.
This was on DraftKings, and Mina didn't bail me out, so I used to like her a lot. Look, all the groups were really difficult. I'm just really high on Harris English and 2 Matt Fitzpatrick. Wasn't there a wine bet last week that included 1 Matt Fitzpatrick?
Oh my gosh. This is shame on me for not following up on that. Yes. What was it? It was Matt Fitzpatrick versus who?
I don't know, but Greg was betting against Fitzy, and I was like, I'll have wine on that.
There's only about 7 spots of guys that Greg could have gotten away with. Let's see what it was.
We'll have to check the tapes. I have no clue who that was.
Because I was going to even up the score. But anyway, too, while you look on that, and you do your crack research there, Rick.
Mm-hmm.
I completely forgot about that.
Oh, yeah, convenient.
Yeah, very convenient.
I think I had Cam Young over
Yeah.
Patrick.
Yeah, right. Wait, Tim Atkins is bailing me out. I think it was Matt Wallace.
Does that sound right?
Matt Wallace. Yeah.
Yeah, because Greg had Grillo over Wallace. So would then have Greg have taken Wallace over Fitzpatrick?
No, I didn't take Wallace.
Right, anyway,
Mina, can you check the tapes? It would have been in the grid portion when we were doing matchups and stuff.
My 54-year-old memory may be failing me, but I seem to remember I was pretty high on Matt Fitzpatrick. Anyway,
we'll check the tapes.
Harris English just plays the kind of game that suits this golf course. He drives the ball long. He drives the ball accurately. He's kind of unflappable. He's okay with the odd bogey. He's not going to fret too much if he gets a bad lie in the rough, which you're going to get around. Yeah, so I'm big on Harris, as you'll see later on in the grid. So I feel like because when he wins the event, he's going to take care of Group D. But again, just as the disclaimer, I couldn't find the head-to-head matchups.
That's okay. We have very loose guidelines around what a matchup is here. So that is Group D winner Harris English plus 330 over Goddard, Hideki, Keegan, and Robert McIntyre. That is Group D on DraftKings. Finishing positions, 2 top 20s and a top 30. Greg's trying to ride the hot hand here. What did you find?
Yes, Chris Kirk for a top 20 at plus 230, which I thought was just was very long, and I very much like what I'm seeing out of Chris Kirk. The last 2 weeks, tied 14th at the 3M, tied 5th at the Wyndham, and he did that thing where he gained strokes in all 4 categories in both of them. He's been hitting the ball really well, and he had a really bad putting day in the opening round, rectified that going forward, was able to finish really high on that leaderboard. It got him into the FedEx. He was one of the 2 guys that moved from outside to inside last week. So this is a hot hand. When Chris Kirk's striking the ball really well, I think this is a golf course that could suit him nicely.
Plus 230 for Chris Kirk to finish inside the top 20. I tried to get a little cheeky here. Yes, Mark, were you trying to get my attention?
Joseph Boza has got the thing. He's on the thing over here.
I'm not sure that's it, though. That was Mark's. So I agree that was Mark's, or I'm sorry, that was Greg's matchup last week.
Yes, and I said not happening. Because I said to him, I said to him, did you watch Matt Wallace play last? I knew it was an Englishman because I had Wallace the week before.
So it was not Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. So I do believe
so I took Grillo, you took Wallace.
Yeah.
So you won. So we're even.
You're love it.
Wait, what did Wallace finish last week?
Wallace was tied 27th.
Yeah. And
Grillo was like 40th.
44th. Okay. Yeah. Good job, everybody. Good job, Joseph. Good job, everybody. Yeah, well done. So you guys are even. That was a double or nothing line wager. You guys are all square.
Okay.
Speaking of Emiliano Grillo, speaking of me trying to get a little cheeky here, Grillo needs a week. Needs to go gas down to get himself into next week. So I'm taking the top 30 side of things, knowing that he's either going to finish about 6th or 66th this week, and I'm okay with that. Plus 120 for Emiliano Grillo. And then, Mark, you kind of teased this a little bit earlier here. Your top 20 is a very, very popular name.
Yeah, Ricky, let's go. Top 20 plus 200. He needs, according to the prognostications by the tour, he needs a 2-way tie for 17th or better. So I'm in. Let's go, Ricky. Top 20.
There you go. Exactly what he needs. Ricky Fowler, top 20 at 2-1. And now it's time for winners. And when we've got Scotty Scheffler in the field, we're certainly going to see that name. We're certainly going to see some without markets. Let's start with, Oh, there's a lot of good crossover here. Okay, Greg, you and I are simpatico. So let's go to you, Mark. Your two outrights, please.
Okay. For those of you, Greg, who are likely picking Scotty Scheffler, I just had a long conversation with his coach, Randy Smith, and Randy's like, boys in good shape. So
easiest job in the world.
When you went that way, I was like, what?
Well, he has that time off.
Snap hooks?
He has that time off, and he and Meredith were cooking at home, so at least he didn't do any of that. You want both of these, Rick?
Yes, please.
All right. I'm going with Harris English at 45-1. I've told you why I'm going with Harris, and he's been playing great over the last few weeks as well. He's pretty much solidified himself as a Ryder Cupper, and so I think it's time to shine on a golf course where he has played well before. In fact, he vied for the title. I can't remember the year it was. And then this time of the year is when Xander Schauffele starts to shine, because he gets to places where there's a lot of Bermuda grass, which is similar to the stuff he grew up, the Kikuyu out in the West Coast. He's comfortable in these conditions. He hits this golf course has got a lot of holes that turn left. I know he's fading the ball off to work with Chris Como, but he can draw the thing pretty easily. He drives it great. So I feel like it's time now for Xander Schauffele to do kind of what Xander Schauffele, or we've been expecting him to do. So Xander 18-1 and Harris 45-1. Let's go.
Well, this is the first time that Xander has not been on my grid, so I'm certain he will win this time around. I've taken a week off because I aligned myself with Greg, and we submitted these. I didn't even submit it in the outline today. I just texted Mina because I was at the airport, so I had no idea. Well, I knew you were going to pick Scotty Scheffler, so I did. I did too, because there's no Rory here. He's the best player in the world. He's guaranteed 4 rounds. So talk to me about Scotty, but then give me your second wager, which is the same man, but in a different format than mine.
Scotty's been very good about learning golf courses. And through time, the more he plays them, sometimes it only takes one trip around. I guess now there's been times where it's taken 0 around, but he's very good at learning his way around. Last year was his first top 10 at TPC Southwind, his first top 5 as well. I imagine some of that has to do with putting. He's having his best putting season ever on the PGA Tour. Mark was saying, and I was saying as well, iron play is crucial around here. Think of Hideki Matsuyama, Will Zalatoris, Abraham Ancer, Justin Thomas, right? These recent winners here, even guys that have not won, like Sepp Straka, they are sensational iron players. And the stats bear that out as well. There's nobody better with an iron in their hand than Scotty Scheffler. So I think he cracks the code this year. And then without Scotty Scheffler, I'm going with Russell Henley. What Mark brought up, the difficulty of the rough when you're playing into firm greens. So a lot of the guys that I like this week are on the accurate side off the tee, and I'm okay with giving up a little distance. I know guys like Will Zalatoris and Justin Thomas and even Hideki were not very accurate in the year that they won here. But I think there will be a premium on accuracy this week, and Russell Henley fits that bill to a T. His iron play fits the bill to a T. I think it's setting up great for Russell Henley this week.
That's what I said. Play out of the fairway, especially into these new greens. Be a great iron player, and he's putted well over his last 3 or 4 after a little bit of a putting slump. I actually went with Scotty and Russell Henley. I did not go with the winner without Scotty market. So Greg is going for the perfect grid. No matter how this shakes out, cannot get a perfect grid. So that's Scotty, Russell without Scotty, Xander, Harris English to win.
Can I give a little love to Russell Henley real fast, please?
Please do. Shower it on.
Yeah.
Not necessarily about how he's playing. He told me he was practicing out there the other day, and he's like, went to the beach for a bit, took some time off, came back, and he's like, I was hitting the ball left a bunch. But then I just realized I was stiff. So he stretched and it got better. So he's out there practicing. Yeah, that's how simple the game is to him. No swing adjustments or anything. He goes, I just got more limber. And then my daughter Isabel was out there, and she's put a picture on her Instagram of her and him. because they just start talking because she blew a lead in the junior tournament. And he looked at her and he just opened up and he goes, Izzy, you're going to blow lots of leads. He goes, in fact, I blew a couple of leads at the Wyndham.
Yes, he did.
And he talked to her about that. And he said, and so this is how I go about it. And I just try and be like really positive about everything I'm going to do and be convinced about what I'm going to do. And a lot of people try and lower their adrenaline. He goes, I try and lift mine and get as high as I can. And I sort of giggled inside because he can do that and still be sort of flatlining the kind of personality is. But here's a guy, and I joked with him. I joked with Izzy. I'm like, he's the 5th ranked golfer in the world or something right now. And here's this guy spending 15 minutes with you, basically talking to you about anxiety and how you deal with that sort of stuff. And I was like, what a gem. So I know I didn't pick him, but I picked some of his fellow Bulldogs here. I'm all over Russell Henley, man. I hope this guy wins it all. I really do.
All-time good guy, Russell Henley. We'll see him at the Ryder Cup. Hopefully he'll be a big part of that team as well. And Greg, hopefully he gets us a little bit of cash this time around.
That's right. I'll tell you, in all of my Ryder Cup formulas that I tried to come up with, I know I'm not sharing them because I don't think they're there's holes in all of them. So I'm just not sharing them. But unless you ask me, then I'll share them. But not today because I don't have them in front of me. Russell Henley was 2nd or 3rd, and no matter how I cut it up, which he's not even ranked that high on the points list, but 2nd or 3rd, every way you slice it. Pretty incredible.
Isn't he like 4th or something on the points list?
Yeah. I think I can tell you exactly what he is. He's 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So big jump in my power rankings.
And 5th in the world. And by the way, you know what Russell Henley's done to guys like Sam Burns and people that like to play with Scotty? He's
beat him.
Hey, boys, Scotty's got a new partner. This guy.
Yes, yes he does.
Yes,
I don't want to play them.
Nope.
We've got a little bit more work to do on the fantasy side of things, but we're going to say goodbye to Mark. Mark, it has been an absolute pleasure. Enjoy your 68-degree climate-controlled viewing experience of this event.
I'm going to, and then I'll be all ready. I'll have strokes gain data next to me. Just kidding. And I'll be watching golf on TV. And I won't be as informed because I won't have seen them with my own 2 eyes. So maybe the eye test will be failed. But I'm going to be with you guys on Friday night, and we'll talk some more golf.
I love it. I'll be your eyes this week. You be my data, and we'll flip it around.
All right.
Cool.
All right,
Talk to you.
Take care, boys.
See you, Mark.
See you, Mark.
Oops. Sorry, Mina. I pressed it at the same time. I pressed remove. Mina pressed it. We clicked at the same time, dropped him out, brought him back in. All right. Greg, there's a little bit of work to do here, my friend.
Let's get to it.
Let's just, reset here. So 69 golfers in this field. We'll look at it from a DraftKings perspective. We've got a no-cut event, right? So barring WD or DQ, you're getting the 4 guaranteed rounds. Has that changed some of the names, particularly at the bottom, that you have opted for? Has that changed your strategy at all?
No, I don't think so. I'm not looking too much into like FedEx Cup standings when it comes to DFS. I think everybody has their own motivation. I don't think anybody's going to just mail it in. And like I mentioned at the top of the show, even if it's a little bit of an exhale week, that could be a great thing. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. So I'm putting that aside for DFS purposes and looking solely at the prices and the metrics and the performance. And as you'll see, there's a pretty heavy dose of iron play with a little bit of accuracy sprinkled in as well.
Yeah, an exhale and freewheeling a little bit is not always a bad thing. Saying, okay, my job's secure for next year. It's all gravy from this point.
Go play some golf.
Let's go play some golf. Let's go play some golfer of the week, because this is a golfer that I say, I don't care. Whatever you want to factor in, whatever you don't want to factor in, if you want to consider salary, if you want to consider this, that, the other thing, I don't care. This is the golfer that you have to have. And you told me and Mina that golfer is.
Well, I will say, yes, Daniel Berger. I do put a little bit of pricing into it. All right. Because otherwise it's not fun. If you know who's in the field, he's the golfer of the week.
His name's Scotty Scheffler, but this is Daniel Berger.
This is Daniel Berger, my golfer of the week this week. He's 7,800 on DraftKings. You can find some nice ways to play him if you'd like. I was just looking at some of his numbers, and he's struggled around the greens. His short game has been pretty poor. His putting has been cool, to say the least. But his ball striking has just been, it has not dropped off. It might be easy to think that it has when you look at a tied 46, tied 42nd, tied 55th, tied 30th finish in his last 4 starts. I think he comes to a place where he's very comfortable, and he's very comfortable with his golf swing. And I think he's going to have some great success. Again, like I mentioned in the grid, his course record here is spectacular. And there is, at least I noticed, Rick, a lot of variability in most players' performance, their record. This is not a very sticky course history, but it is for Daniel Berger.
Yeah, the water in play on 11 holes helps with that. The scoring averages on a lot of holes is right around even par. So, like, if you make a bogey, you've lost like a full shot to the. Yeah, there is kind of some wider outcomes on a lot of these holes, indeed. That's Daniel Berger. He's $7,800. The 9K range and above, we have talked a lot about Scottie Scheffler and Russell Henley. They have made your list.
Yes.
We don't necessarily need to spend too much time there, but this is the name that really had me questioning what was going on. It's Patrick Cantlay.
Yes, I get the questions. Now, it's fascinating to look at Patrick Cantlay's record and his results. So remember, I told you I'm really honing in on iron play. Well, Patrick Cantlay has gained strokes to the field in every single event since the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, which was in early February, with the exception of 2 majors, the PGA and the U.S. Open. He missed the cut at the PGA, the U.S. Open, and the Open Championship. Now, that is a strike against him when you're looking at a Ryder Cup kind of situation. But it's not a strike against him here, in my opinion. And I believe that this could actually be a good thing. I think some people will stay away from Cantlay. I think he's a lot better than that. When you look at his performance in non-majors, everything is inside the top 32. And there's a lot of top 12 finishes in there as well. So I really like what I'm seeing from his ball striking as well. When you go to TPC Southwind, he's putted really well. He finished tied 12th last year. He finished 2nd the year before that. He has another tied 12th and a tied 23rd here in his history. So there's a lot of good play at Southwind. There's been a lot of good play as long as it's not a major recently. I don't believe this is a broken game. I believe it's a game that's going to fit here very nicely.
I'm starting to think, I don't know if I actually feel this way, that he's not a super lock to be on the Ryder Cup team.
No, I don't think he's a lock at all.
Okay.
I think he would be on my team if I had to pick right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the partnership with Xander Schauffele is, I think, very, very valuable.
Agreed. That is the thread that keeps him tied to this team, in my opinion.
It's why I even bring up Jordan Spieth, at least half of the reason. So, yeah, it'd be very, like, when the moment's big, you step down. But he's also stepped up in the playoffs before, and he steps up in Ryder Cups. There's a thing with majors for him. So it's like on a week like this, I think it's important to rule those out. That is a different hurdle that he's got to get across in his career. And I don't think he has to deal with it this week.
The $8,000 range on DraftKings, you found 3 names for me. Where would you like to start?
Let's see. So I found, let's start with the defending champion, Hideki Matsuyama. Rick, you went against him in a matchup last week, and I think you said if he performs like he's capable, I'm in trouble.
Yes.
He's kind of doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're a big Hideki fan.
It's huge.
He gained 5.9 strokes approaching the green at the Wyndham, at the Rocket Classic, 8.5, 6.5 at the U.S. Open. It's 5 straight on approach with some of those big ceiling weeks. He's also gained strokes with the putter in 4 straight weeks. He won here last year and finished tied third the year before. I'm sorry, won last year, tied 16th, tied second, tied 20th for his course history here. Hideki was very nearly my golfer of the week. Not quite as accurate as Berger. And ultimately, I wanted to put a little more weight on that this week, but I'm certainly willing to play Hideki in DraftKings.
Yeah, $8,800, and just feels like he's been brewing under the surface and at some point is about to explode. Who else you got here in the 8K range?
I also have Aaron Rai, who we talked about last week at the Wyndham. I think that this guy's really found a groove with his golf swing. Gained 5 strokes last week, 2 weeks ago, gained 10.5 strokes last week with his iron play. He's gained over 3 in his last 2 off the tee as well. This has been a ball striking machine in Aaron Rai. And again, think of accuracy and iron play, that combination that I'm looking for. Few fit that mold better than Aaron Rai. A lot of confidence. He was able to finish tied 5th last week while losing a stroke and a half putting. You could look at that a couple different ways. You could be worried about the putter or say, well, whoa, what if? I'm on the side of, well, what if?
I like what I saw last week at the Wyndham is exactly what I'd want from Aaron Rai. Unfortunately, the last time I saw that before last week was the Wyndham prior. So, I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess, is what I'll say. Now, your third man, I think, might be criminally mispriced. And this is insulting to somebody who's had the year that he has had and is going to be probably inside the top 10 when we get to the Tour Championship. Who am I referring to?
Yeah, that's Ben Griffin.
Yeah.
I mean, look, this has got to be because of those 2 missed cuts at the John Deere and the Open. Now, we always said when he was on this run for basically the entire year, well, I'm not worried about the fact that it's his 10th event in a row.
Right.
He keeps playing. I'm going to keep playing him. Well, maybe that caught up to him at the John Deere. He also didn't play that bad. I think it's he
played 2 bad holes.
Yeah, it's like a very easy cut to miss.
Yeah.
And the Open Championship is,
who cares?
Great. It's a totally different style of golf. And if you're not a links player, like, that's okay. When you're playing in Memphis, it's fine. So then he bounces right back with a T11 last week. And I'm like, yeah, get on the bandwagon. He's been a great iron player all year. That has continued, gaining strokes in every event since the PGA Championship. And that's May. And all you got to do, missed 1 event since then.
Yeah.
The Scottish Open. So it's been an incredible run for him. The putter's hot. Ball striking's hot. He's got all things clicking, and he's $8,100.
$8,100 for Griffin. So that 8K range is Ben Griffin, Aaron Rai, Hideki Matsuyama. The 7K range includes your golfer of the week in Daniel Berger, who we are listing here. And then someone else that you mentioned a little bit, Greg, but let's talk about Chris Kirk here at $7,200. My opinion, and we'll get to it in a second, the 6K range is pretty scary. And I'll kind of describe that to you in a second. The Chris Kirk being at the bottom of the 7K range feels warm and fuzzy to me. Cozy.
Yes, it does. I'm curious to see what ownership is because he's coming off a T14 and a T5, and the price seems right. So if that ownership goes up too high, I say just leave some money on the table if you can and still play him. Like he's playing great golf and needs a pretty good week to keep this playoff run going. It looks like a guy that's inspired. I believe in his abilities wholeheartedly, and I really like the skill set that he's put on display for the last 2 weeks. I like the skill set he showed the 2 weeks before the John Deere Classic as well. Very reminiscent. He's been a very complete player for much of the last 2 months, with a couple of exceptions. When I see somebody gain strokes in all 4 categories for 2 straight weeks, it catches my attention. And when they're at 7,200, it's almost an autoplay.
Yeah, so Chris Kirk, $7,200, trying to pull that move that we saw, like EVR played his way like in at the Wyndham, played his way in Memphis. So it's like kept making this run, being on the outside and swapping his way in every single week. So he's going to try to be that guy here in 2025. Now, the 6K range is interesting, Greg, because the bottom of the range is quite honestly a lot of guys who are here because of one big thing they did, or maybe like a lot of little volumes. There's not a lot of guys in the 6K range who you would argue are playing good golf right now, but they are in here because it's the season-long aspect of it. So with all of that being said, you have found me 2 diamonds in the rough. Where would you like to go first?
Let's go as low as I'm willing to go and move up from there.
Okay.
And that's Emiliano Grillo.
Yeah.
I know you like him. You talked about him already. He's at 6,600. The price feels right. I'm not looking at Emiliano Grillo saying I think he's going to contend this week, but he's done enough. His last 4 events, he's gained at least 2 strokes approaching the green to the field. That ball striking has come back this year to some degree. He's accurate off the tee. So I think he's going to be able to handle this golf course and put together a reasonable finish. I think the upside, I don't know, it feels limited. That could be wrong. I think Emiliano Grillo is a really good play, especially if you're playing Scotty Scheffler at the top of your lineup. So I'm a fan of his, and compared to the other players in this range, it's like, he stands out when you look at his metrics.
Yeah, no offense to those other guys, but boy, it gets ugly very quickly. Now, it's an all-international 6K range for you. Emiliano Grillo out of Argentina, and a Canadian to finish out our list today, Greg. Who is it?
Yeah, this is Nick Taylor, who hasn't played since the Open Championship. He missed the cut at the Open Championship, and like we said about Ben Griffin, who cares? You look at...
It's true.
Yeah, I know. Who cares? It's totally different. A million things can happen. We praise that when we get there. So I don't put too much stock into it. Look at what he did before that. 5 straight events, finishing inside the top 25, gaining strokes off the tee and approaching the green, and basically all of them. Just an absolute stripe show. So very accurate off the tee, very solid iron player lately as well. And it doesn't hurt that, 5 of his last 6 events, he's also gained strokes putting. He feels underpriced to me as well.
He has low-key had a very, very good 2025.
Yes.
From start to
the
finish.
beginning was a little, you didn't feel comfortable, but boy, I do now.
Yeah, do indeed. Well, listen, I'm out of things. My outline, I'm done. I've got paper in front of me. I'm Greg DuCharme today. Anything else that we need to talk about before I sign us off?
I'm very excited to see how this tournament unfolds. I can't wait. Send me a report on how those greens respond tomorrow. I will get a report. If you're going to be out there any point this week, Wednesday through Sunday, we have a setup for PGA Tour Live on the 14th green. We have a little, I think they're calling it like a content suite. I think it's going to be set up for us to like go ham and egg on some content. So I think it's going to be, they loosened their videoing restrictions for me this week. So I'm allowed to post like X number of footage. Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yes.
So you can like do your own commentary.
Exactly.
To some degree.
Amount. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. To some degree. But instead of none, absolutely no way, we're going to handcuff you. It's like, okay, you can do a little bit. It has to be on your cell phone. It's for this number of minutes and like, all that stuff.
Oh, nice.
I can't bring like a camera crew or anything.
You got to film on your phone as much as you can and then see what you want to see what's worth sharing.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. All right. Sweet. Big thanks to producer Mina. She does all the hard work behind the scenes. Greg DuCharme, for Mark Immelman. I'm Rick Gehman. This is The Second Cut. Catch you next time.